remember asking you a goddamn thing.
So you know somebody doesn't respect you. They listen to reply, not to be understood. They cut you off. They minimize what actually matters to you. They laugh at your boundaries, and then they call you sensitive when you try to hold the line. They show up late, they cancel last minute, forget the things you've told them, because in their world, your time, your energy, even your voice aren't a priority. They're just an option. You see, there are two kinds of people. Those who adjust when they realize they've actually hurt you, and those who expect you to adjust so they don't have to change. You don't need to be disrespected loudly to be disrespected deeply. Sometimes you'll see it. It's just in their tone, in their patterns, in the silence after you're known. Respect isn't what they say when they're watching. It's how they act when they think you'll tolerate it.
The flow insane, take my spot, so the range, shoot my shot with perfect aim, 3rd degree, that perfect flame, ain't no sleep, that's the game, oh so southern, that's the slang, when they see me, that's the main, chasing checks and fly like planes, big old stick, I bought a cane, flick my wrist and bought the ring, I'm so boss, we're not the same, paid the cost and kept the change, now I'm walking Hall of Fame, and I reside in the cloud, grand wishes, with these bitches, taking pictures with the crowd, and I'm out.
Yo. What's good? Happy Monday. Peace, blessings. Glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. I hope all is well. It's good to see you guys. Hope the week is starting off the way that you would like it to. Shout outs to my poets, writers, content creators, all that good stuff. I got Rob and I got Sydney in the studio. She had a situation. I think she popped off. She'll be back. But in the meantime, in between time, I got a clip I want to play for y'all. I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart, so this one tugged at my heartstrings a little bit. And I wanted to put this up here for the people. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring Rob up. We'll get this clip ready for y'all. Do me a solid like, share, repost, let the people know that we are on. And let's get this show started. Rob, what up?
Excuse me, what's goody?
What's the word, man?
Man, chilling.
Likewise. We got some rain over here. I'm loving it. That heat wave the last couple of weeks have been pain in the butt, so I'm glad to get some relief from that.
Right. Yeah, it's hot as all get out around here. Everything stay straight.
Hey, look, man. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bring this up on a big screen, and I'm gonna let this play. Bro, he was talking, and I never really paid no mind to it. It kind of came across my attention a couple times, noticing like how the fires would just be randomly showing up in certain areas, burning down people's homes and stuff. But the way that he kind of broke this down had me thinking. So let me bring this up here. Make sure it ain't on mute or nothing like that. All right. Might have to minimize this a little bit.
Fires happening and all the natural calamities. This is just a conspiracy.
Okay, just wanted to make a quick clip to document something that's rather important. Wondering if you have noticed any anomalies in the wildfire scenes. You know, all those fires that are sweeping the nation and other nations as well. Well, there's a student named Robert Brame. He's a forensic arborist. He spent his whole life with trees. He started to notice some things that really didn't make any sense, like when he saw entire neighborhoods wiped out. And yet the trees all around them, surrounding them, were unaffected. This shot from paradise. You notice every one of these homes is reduced to white ash, and yet the trees surrounding them survive. That defies reality, the natural principles. Here's another one. Completely surrounded by trees, but every home completely eradicated. Here's another example. I could go on for years with all the examples out there. But at some point, you're going to get what I'm talking about. This here is an exceptional example. None of the trees around it were burning, with the exception of what was caused by this fire. Now, this is where it really starts to get interesting. Notice the burn patterns here. Notice where the fire is coming from. It's not on the ground. It's not coming from a fire. It's everywhere that metal touches wood. All right? These are some of Robert's images that he's shared from all of the investigation that he's done. You see this? Notice the patterns here. It's burning where there are metal bolts going through the wood. It's not burning the wood. It's not burning the wood unless there is metal in the wood. Look at this here. This appears to be a metal cable, and the fire, to me, looks like plasma. It's going above and below the cable. Because everywhere you see a metal bolt going through the wood, you see it's being energized and set on fire. That defies the natural principles. This is a trestle bridge. There's a fence post. The only place it burned is where there are nails. The only place this burned is where the bolts touched the wood. See this? Starting to see a pattern here. Yeah. Again and again and again, Robert was finding these anomalies and realizing this is not natural. This is not right. This defies everything. Wildfires do not do this. So he began sounding the alarm. This is a list of the 10 anomalies that Robert has noticed and documented. You should probably make a copy of it. See if you can find yourself. There are certainly some exceptional examples out there in reality. Notice how this bridge is on fire everywhere at the same time. I had seen this image of the Woolsey fire in Malibu, of a bridge that was on fire and smoldering. The metal beams were bent. Yet the trees surrounding the bridge miraculously survived. I went to investigate this bridge myself. I filmed quite a bit of footage and noticed some very unique anomalies. This bridge was constructed with metal beams, wooden planks, covered in asphalt. And you can see where the nails were going through the wood. between the beams. And you probably realize that a wood fire typically doesn't heat up steel beams to the point where they melt and warp. If you look around the side and back, you'll see most of the trees are still unburnt. So, from my background and experience working with microwaves, I was able to recognize these principles and properties can be attributed to microwave assisted combustion. I did a few experiments to demonstrate this.
We have recreated a fence post with nails in it and wire that wraps around. Then we put these screws in there, these tacks in there to further demonstrate. What's happening is the microwave radiation is being attracted to the metal. It heats up and then it sets the wood on fire. These are the effects that we're seeing in these wildfire areas with the fence posts and the nails that are charred or that have set the wood on fire from the nail, or like a guard rail, where it goes, where the bolt goes through the wood, it's setting them on fire in that spot, which is not a trait of a natural wildfire. So we're going to demonstrate this here in the microwave field. All right. If those bolts were not there, see that? It's happening with the bolts across the wood. If the bolts were not there, it would not set the wood on fire. All right, you see here, the metal is going through here. That's what set it on fire. There was a metal tack in each of these spots. All right. The wood itself did not burn anywhere else except where the metal went through it. All right. Now, the magnetron is right back here in this microwave, so it's directed right there. So some of these aren't really in range to get heated up like the others did. All right. What you see here, that's where that tap, and that's what set this on fire. And this is exactly what we're seeing. It looks just like this. And so there's been this theory that it was caused by microwave assisted combustion. And I think this team definitely demonstrates that is certainly possible and probably the likely scenario what we're seeing. All right. The same anomalies. But you can't get from a regular wildfire. For a wildfire to set a fence post on fire, it burns in the grass and it might set it on fire. You get strong winds, heat, no humidity. If it's really dry, it'll set it on fire. You can find many examples where the grass isn't even burnt. A lot of these trees that are burning, all right, you see this right here? None of these trees burnt. But you got 16 cars that burnt so freaking hard. The metal was melted. The windshields were melted. That's 2,500 degrees plus to melt safety glass. And yet the trees are totally cool. Check them out. No problems with the trees. It's just really wild. Take a look at how that's burning. You notice how it's all on fire at once? There's no grass burning around them. It's an indication. Anyway. I just wanted to share this because people need to comprehend what's really happening and the agendas behind it, specifically the 30 by 30 initiative and the Wildlands Project. They want to exclude all human activity from the wildland. And they're going to tie it in with all this climate change propaganda. And this is why you're seeing all the wildfires and the floods and the landslides in the wildlands. And you're seeing the homes getting taken out. You're seeing the homes on fire and not the trees. Look at the evidence. There's a lot more to it. People need to know. And just because this information defies what you were led to believe on TV, doesn't mean it's a crazy conspiracy. Doesn't mean it's fake news. It does mean that there's evidence that somebody's lying to you. And if you want to know who, you got to figure out what the truth is. You got to look at the evidence yourself and stop listening to these talking heads. Doesn't matter if it's the red channel or the blue channel. It's all propaganda. Anybody on the stage is a king actor. All these people have lost their homes. Entire towns have been wiped out. There's at least 5 towns in Oregon that were just wiped off the map. Choking on the ashes of the American dream. And everyone just thinks it's the evil global warming monster. The counterparts. Yeah, if you just pay your green fees and your climate taxes and sell your car and take the bus, move out of the wildlands into the sustainable cities and eat the bugs, the weather will change. Yes, sir, Bob. Nobody realizes that the weather is being changed by the people who make all the money off of this massive shakedown operation, land grab operation, population control operation, all rolled into one big happy package. The Great Reset. There's a very little chance of turning this thing around at this point. But if you're still alive, you're still in the game. May the odds be ever in your favor.
No, that was a lot to process. I think that's the longest video I've been played in a very long time, but I needed the people to see it. I couldn't believe it when I watched it. I still got to do more digging for myself personally, but yeah. Initial thoughts, anybody?
You already know I have feedback. So had a lot of issues with the evidence that he was promoting. There was a lot of assumptions that weren't true. First of all, the biggest one is his comments about the trees. Trees can definitely remain standing after a fire. One thing is oftentimes fires don't reach the crown of the trees. That's where all the leaves are. And you can basically have the, not the stem, the trunk of the tree burn and then just have heat damage to the leaves. There's actually multiple wildfire impacted areas near my house that we drive by all the time. The ground is black. The shrubs are basically just little sticks sticking out of the ground, completely burnt. But all the trees are still standing. There's one area that has a bunch of palm trees. As I said, the trunk is black, but they're still alive. You can actually find trees, very large trees like redwoods and Douglas firs. These trees have fire resistant bark, and you can actually, and oak trees as well. You can actually find, if you cut down trees and look at their rings, there's evidence that trees survive these wildfires. They have scorch marks where their bark had been burned, but then they have rings on top of that, which means the tree survived that fire and was able to grow a new trunk skin, even though that's not what it's called. Another thing, or let me see. I don't know if I staying on the trees, I have some other stuff, but I'll stick to the trees for now. The thing that he said with, oh yeah, the trees are still there. Homes burn hotter than trees. There's a lot more flammable material and chemicals and very, very flammable materials that can burn at much hotter temperatures than the wood inside trees. And that's why you end up seeing these homes that are burnt down completely and you have trees around them, because the homes are burning with hotter flames. And not to mention, when you have fire contained in a space, it basically helps the fire spread because there's more things for it to touch, and so it's able to travel more. Where the fire on trees, it'll burn upwards, but if it has really thick bark, that tree is not going to be able to remain on fire because it's a very hardy material, and so they're not going to burn as hot. And another thing too is the pictures that he was showing, a lot of them were aerial footage, and it was really grainy. It was really hard to tell, but I do this all the time. I'm able to recognize these indications, but you could clearly tell that those areas were burned. If you looked at the trunks of the trees in a lot of those pictures, they were black and white. And then the leaves themselves were yellowed, which indicates that they had heat damage. And of course, he showed all of the homes surrounding. But as I said, like the resolution made it look like the trees were all still standing, but it was clear that they did have damage. One other aspect is where he was showing the metal in wood objects. If you heat up metal hot enough, you can start fires. His representation in the microwave isn't really a very good demonstration because microwave heating uses radiation rather than fire uses heat and burning. I don't know exactly what to call it, but radiation fires are different than wood fires. Firefighters will tell you the same thing. House fires are different than tree fires, are different than chemical fires, car fires. Like there's different types of fires. They act differently. But it does work. Like you can actually start fires by heating up wood hot enough. And with wildfires, they can burn at temperatures between wood burst into flames at 570 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures in wildfires can reach 2,200 degrees. And that is more than hot enough to heat up metal enough to burn things. It's enough to warp metal, and it's enough to melt glass. I actually have this necklace, which is melted glass from the San Francisco fires and earthquake. You can see how distorted it is. It's not really flat anymore, but fires can also definitely melt glass. So I have a lot of issues with the evidence that he's showing, and a lot of the facts that he's promoting are not true, or at least they're not exactly accurate. I would be curious to look up the person that he was referencing, because I know there are a lot of people online that say that they're experts in something, but when you look into them, they're not. So I would love to know where he's getting this information from. He said it was supposedly an expert, but I don't trust the things he's saying because a lot of what he's saying don't make sense. So especially the tree one, because I've seen so many wildfire zones that have all of the tree trunks left. Maybe the trees die, but they're still standing because it takes a lot to burn wood. So yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I told you down the rabbit hole, and I felt like a lot of stuff started burning up when this organization uh, administration was in last time. A lot of stuff started burning up. I had read somewhere that there are machines somewhere they placed in the ocean that could start tornadoes. I heard they might have stuff in the plates underground that start the earthquakes. Um, Said I believe you with the trees and all, but at the same time, the insurance companies and all of that and the corporations, I feel real suspicious about that too, because you could ruin those neighborhoods and raise the rates. I'm from the hood where people cars used to mysteriously burn up. Um,
Bang, 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 bang.
I feel like it's a little bit of both because we talking about this right now. We had the earthquake in Colombia. They said Puerto Rico right now is like without water. I think the water was cut off in Cuba. Um, it's I think typhoons just hitting China. Then we had the crazy flooding right now, like in the Midwest. And the Midwest been going through it for a minute. And then these crazy heat waves right now because in Florida it felt like 105 degrees right now outside, and the sun is going down. So I'm what you said, but the conspiracy theorist in me feels like it could be a scheme. Definitely a land grab, definitely a money grab.
Yeah. So here's my position. I see what both of y'all talking about, and I knew this was going to be something that you was going to be able to dig in with a fork, spoon, a knife, all that. The only thing that I'm looking at is the argument that he's making that there are what you alluded to. There's a specific type of machine that they're using intentionally to create the fires. I think what you're talking about, Sydney, is debunking this idea that out of nowhere there's just this intense heat that is creating the burning between the metal and the wood, and that's impossible. You can't do it that way. I'm thinking he's assuming that there's something that's being used to make it happen intentionally or on purpose. Like Rob said, I've seen a number of disaster movies. The Core is one of them that kind of just came to my mind when they drilled into the earth. I like that movie, but you talking about weather machines, them spreading crop dust or whatever that is, chemtrails and all that. Is this fear mongering, or is this just someone clipping different photos together to make it look like it's something that it isn't? But I remember it wasn't last year or so when California had that big fire, and it just completely destroyed a whole neighborhood. We even spoke about that too. Um, but they didn't have no water out there, something like that. They ran out coincidentally. I I wouldn't put nothing past them if any of this had something to do with them messing around with different tools and things of that nature. But like, I can't say that you're wrong either, because I don't know. I've never seen. Matter of fact, the last thing I remember you saying at one point was like if there are flames and little sparks that's coming off of a house and it catches wind and it goes into a different direction, and if it's hot enough, it can catch on fire to something else. But as far as like seeing a tree engulfed, like in what happened in Hawaii or something of that nature, I think that's different than what he's describing here, where you're looking at a whole bridge that's simultaneously combusted, or a whole guardrail simultaneously combusted, or a whole bunch of cars. How do you get a whole bunch of cars to burn like that? Matter of fact, I mean, like even then, these are just pictures that you're showing us. I don't know how they got there. I don't know if this is AI generated or none of that. So
One thing that you brought up with the cars, cars can burn at extremely high temperatures. EV fires, electric vehicle fires can burn up to 5,000 degrees, where gasoline powered vehicles can reach 1,500 degrees. So it's with car fires, it's very common to see those cars, unless it's like put out right away. Those cars are going to be skeletons with nothing left. It's going to melt the rubber. It's going to burn the whatever the seats are made out of. It's going to burn wires, melt things. It can shatter glass. So it definitely, that makes sense to see those skeleton cars. The campfire is a wildfire that I've studied quite extensively. And for those of you that are not familiar, it was one of the deadliest wildfires we've seen. I think they got close to 100 victims. A lot of them were elderly people that weren't able to get out in time. But when you look at the aerial photos, you see all the burned out patches of homes, the white squares, and then next to them you can see the burned out cars. So definitely wildfires can do that. In reference to running out of water, that happens a lot, particularly with wildfires, because whether people believe it or not, firefighters have a limited amount of water to work with. They can manage house fires just fine, but wildfires take an immense amount of water. And typically these fires are happening in the summer when we're already short water. Sometimes they can pull water from a river, stream, or lake, but if they're in areas like suburbs or more dry regions, they definitely can have limited access to water. That did happen. There are also circumstances where it is too dangerous for the firefighters to go in, and so instead they work the perimeters just to make sure it doesn't spread, but they can't actually enter the home. Or enter the forest more deeply. And so there are examples of firefighters letting a fire burn because it's too dangerous for them to go in. Wind conditions can make this, because if the wind shifts, they can get stuck in the way of the fire and pass away. This actually happened in Arizona. It was the deadliest wildfire firefighter disaster after 9/11. I think it was 18 men. There's a whole movie about it. But a bunch of firefighters were overtaken by the wildfire when it switched directions, and they all died. Even though they were under fireproof blankets, they were cooked, literally. So it's very dangerous for firefighters to be out in those situations, especially because it is hot enough that it can actually burn their gear. I've heard of them running out of oxygen because their tubes like melted, the oxygen tubes and stuff. So it is a very dangerous situation. So they sometimes don't actually remain in those situations. In reference to the stuff about like the insurance companies and stuff, that I definitely believe. But I don't think that they're starting the fires. I think that they're taking advantage of these disasters. They did this in Lahaina. They did it in the Camp Fire. They've done it in Altadena, in Malibu, where basically because the price of the land in California has gone up, the insurance companies come in and they reevaluate the land and list it as a higher price. And that way, a lot of the people who were originally living there can't move back. And so these companies are able to swoop in and buy all this land and raise the price, put in mega apartments, take out these communities. I think only 1 to 5% of people came back to the campfire after it had, as of today. That was in 2018. So it's almost been 10 years since the campfire, and only 5% of people have been able to move back where they once lived. And some of these people have been living in those places for generations, as was the case with Altadena. So yeah, I definitely think that insurance companies are taking advantage of it. I also believe that power companies would hide when they accidentally start fires. I think that they probably are responsible for more fires than they're owning up to. They just don't want to get sued. And so they're lying about the origin. I definitely believe that. In relation to the administration, part of the problem with the current administration is they, one, defunded Park Service, and Park Service is a huge component of identifying wildfires, reporting it to the fire brigade, and also maintaining trails and stuff like that, because underbrush is a huge aspect of spreading fire, because it allows the undergrowth to burn, and then it allows it to spread much faster because grass is more dry than the inside of trees. So I would definitely, so that lack of funding is going to make it so they're short staffed. They can't access as much of the forest. They can't attend to the forest as much. They're basically overstretched for resources. They've also been defunding some of the other programs that help manage the forests. If also in the past 50 or so years, we've dramatically reduced the amount of tree, like going in and cutting trees and stuff like that because of some environmental measures. But if you have too closely compacted trees, you will end up having the fire spread faster because it jumps from tree to tree, and they're much closer, so it's easier for them to do that. So there's also some truth to it was worse under the administration, but it's because of the funding, the lack of resources, the propaganda that they've been shouting about, like, oh, we have the Pacific Ocean, how come we can't use that to put out fires, even though some of the fires are like 300 miles away from the ocean, 200 miles away. So it's, you can't just take any water and just, it doesn't work that way. And so a lot of this propaganda about like, oh, we have plenty of water, we're diverting it and not using it for the wildfires, that's not true. We use whatever we can get. Sometimes they'll hook it up to people's homes. Sometimes they'll, as I said, connect it to a water source. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention too is how he was saying like, oh, these areas were untouched. This part didn't burn, even though this part did. That can definitely happen as well. Fires will often change, like their speed, their heat, it changes based on the material that's burning. And with large resilient trees, it disrupts their momentum because the fire is not able to burn as efficiently, and so it's more likely to burn itself out instead. And it also, like natural barriers such as roads, streams, open meadows, can also stop a fire's progress. And so you can have certain areas that are untouched despite there being fire all around it. I've seen some really cool, even though if you're the homeowner, you probably wouldn't see it the same way, really cool pictures of people that did really well at maintaining their a defensible space around their house. And they're literally surrounded by fire, but their house remains untouched. There are ways that you can prevent fire from affecting your homes. It's just a lot of people don't do that. And unfortunately, certain fires are so hot that it doesn't work. So yeah, there's definitely reasons for fires to leave things unscathed. And it can definitely do a lot of that damage that they're seeing. I find it hard to believe that machines are starting these fires, but as I said, I definitely think that there is components to this of like insurance companies taking advantage of the situation, and people lying about the causes of fires. I also wouldn't be surprised if possibly there was military type of situations where they also started a fire and didn't disclose. But unfortunately, a lot of the fires are started by two things: lightning and unattended campfires. When people, or they start a signal fire or something like that, it's very easy for a campfire to get out of control if you don't properly lift it off the ground, because it can just catch the nearby grass on fire, and grass fires spread very quickly. And also leaf litter burns really, really fast, and it can burn really deep into the soil. And so it can spread pretty fast. One of the biggest wildfires in our area that literally stopped outside of our neighborhood like 20 years ago. It was started by somebody, a hiker that got lost, and he started a signal fire, and it was the largest wildfire in San Diego history. So yeah, you usually started by people, by power lines, and by lightning.
Yeah, I'm looking at the AP news. I don't know what the AP stand for, but they got since we talking about natural disasters, Sri Lanka closes schools as floods and mudslides triggered by heavy rains kill 7. That's August 4th. Heavy rains lead to water rescues, gristmill destruction in upstate New York, July 30th. Deadly flooding in West Virginia finds prevention plans unaddressed, July 29th. Powerful tornado leaves widespread damage in Wisconsin, but time of day may have saved lives, July 28th. A 7.1 magnitude quake hits Japan's southern Kyushu island, killing at least 3. A third death has been confirmed from the catastrophic Texas floods, governor said, July 24th. At least 50 people killed and 700,000 displaced by India floods after monsoon rains, July 24th. Rescuers in China search for rubble for survivors of landslide that killed 8 and left 34 missing, July 19th. I'll just do 2 more. Texas Hill Country floods test new warning systems after last year's deadly disaster, and that's July 22nd. And then rescuers race to find survivors in the rain after a landslide in China kills at least 8. That's July 18th. We lived in Hurricane Michael. That was a while ago. Might have been like 10 years ago. I can't tell you the exact date, but I know we was out without power for 9 days. But there were people out of power for 2 and 3 months in the surrounding areas. So we got lucky with that. Our gate got knocked down, and we couldn't claim it on our insurance because the gate was not bolted to the house. So that was like my last straw with the insurance company. Of course, we was living. Then when I applied for FEMA, they went back to see where I was living when I was 5 years old, which was like crazy. They said that we made too much to get, and then they said that I made too much to get assistance from FEMA. So definitely not a fan of the insurance. I'm definitely not a fan of the insurance companies, but this stuff it almost make you sad because it's a lot. It's just happening back to back to back. So I'm with you, Deep, to where it probably been happening. This stuff has been happening, and we know it is. It's just that everybody got a cell phone now. Everybody can record live footage from where they are, and it's sad. I would even like to do a moment of silence before we end this show for all of this, because this stuff is happening worldwide.
I want to add something. With the, I'll make it quick because I talk about this a lot, but with the droughts, the wildfires, the storms, the floods that we're seeing, all of that goes hand in hand, because if you have more severe droughts, you're going to have more severe wildfires, because it literally pulls the water out of the trees. And so they're more dry, they're more brittle, they're more sick. And so if you have prolonged droughts, you're more likely to have severe wildfire because all of that plant material is much drier. And then with climate change, with droughts, as I said, it also pulls the moisture from the ground, and it goes up into the sky, and that transfers somewhere else. And so all of that precipitation, since it's not raining down on California, Arizona, New Mexico, it's going to start to drop once it hits Texas and the warmer areas, because then it allows it to kind of condense more in the humid areas, especially. There's already high moisture content, so it's very easy to get huge raindrops, a lot of rain all at once. And so you're going to also see in some areas you have extreme drought, in other areas you're going to have extremely severe floods. So it definitely makes sense that we have all of these disasters going on at once. And even though this hasn't been proven, just in my opinion, I have a suspicion that floods impact earthquakes as well. Because if you have weight in certain areas, because water is very heavy, you're going to have disruptions in other areas of the crust. And also the rain is going to lubricate the fault lines and make it easier to have earthquakes. Also, just throwing it out there, Japan, South America, these areas are very earthquake prone. So it does make sense that they're having a lot of large earthquakes. We go through ebbs and flows where we have higher quantities of earthquakes and then times of less earthquakes. And we're coming out of a period of less earthquakes, and scientists had already been estimating that 2025 we'd start seeing an increase in earthquake activity because of the way that the crust is moving, because of the way we interact with the sun. A lot of different components kind of affect how many earthquakes we've had. So all of these disasters are unfortunately linked to how we treat the earth. And so it's extra depressing that so many people are dying, are being affected by these disasters, losing their homes, losing everything they own because of the stuff that we're doing. These floods are worse because of us. These droughts are worse because of us. So it's something we have to. I think that's kind of where the conspiracy comes from, in my opinion, is they're trying to make it seem like it's external factors, that it's the government doing it, that it's the whoever else bad actors doing what they're doing on purpose. But it's a distraction from the fact that we are responsible for what is happening and we don't know what to do about it. And so people want to blame other things because they don't want to admit that we are the cause of what's been happening. So yeah, I think it makes sense what we're seeing. It's just hard for people to wrap their minds around, especially if they don't have a deep understanding of science, because it can make it very easy to assume you're not seeing things as accurately. Like you think that people might be modifying your opinion and trying to change how you think and stuff like that, because they don't have a background to compare what they're seeing to, and to kind of be more, what's the word? They're not able to really think about it in the manner that it is like what's happening. I hope that made sense. Also, I do have a poem to end with if you guys are interested, but I'll let you guys talk first.
My final remarks. Anything is possible. I would encourage people to do their own research, but anything is possible. You got billionaires spending $10 million to go explore the Titanic. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you can do that and you can create vaccines that prolong a person's sickness, even though you know you have the cure, I'm pretty sure you can microwave some stuff. But I'm not saying that that's what's going on here either. My condolences to everybody that's going through right now, because I just seen the earthquake on IG. I believe that was Colombia. Completely just. Yeah, I think y'all building these underground cities and all that. You think you safe? No, you're not safe. Mother Nature will always be undefeated. You cannot combat that. But shout outs to Rob, shout outs to Sid. I'm gonna let you close this out. And yeah.
All right. So this one is called Living on Borrowed Land. And it basically talks about how we have moved onto this land, but it's going to affect us and what we kind of deal with in the world. So, living on borrowed land. Salt rocks grow on broken doors. Blackness spreads on empty floors. Glowing hillsides, melted streets, shattered families, shoeless feet. Run from forests, flee from coasts, vacant rows of communal ghosts. Inhuman evictions, emergency zones, 36 seconds, but nowhere to go. No saving anything, forget even keys. Hardest of choices between frantic pleas. The slowest to make it are left behind, and the only survivors are rubble in time. Picture windows frame fatal mistakes, our firewood fields and unplanned lakes, desiccated wells and exhausted soils, flood plains furnished with our fruits of toil. Gullible generations and decades of lies, flagrantly ignored 2 centuries of cries. We staked our claims on hallowed land and spread our roots in moving sand. We rest our towns on open graves, expecting that we'd all be safe. Yet as we watch it all fall down, we assure ourselves that we can't drown. When all the world is disarranged, strife, famine, and disease will reign. As refugees cross borders escaping, will compete over what's left of our nation.
The flow insane, take my spot, so the range. Shoot my shot with perfect aim. 3rd degree, that perfect flame. Ain't no sleep, that's the game. Oh, so southern, that's the slang. When they see me, that's the main. Chasing checks and fly like planes. Big old stick, I bought a cane. Flick my wrist and bought the ring. I'm so boss, we're not the same. Paid the cost and kept the change. Now I'm walking Hall of Fame. And I reside in the cloud. Grand wishes,